All right, so hi everyone. Welcome to MURAL Backstage Pass, Impact Edition. I'm Haley Temple. I am one of your co-hosts today, along with the lovely Emma Schnee. We are with our friends here from World Builders to help give you a sense of kind of a behind the scenes look at how teams work together in Mural. And this month in particular, we are working together with, excuse me, nonprofit organizations and universities to understand how we can help them use Mural to make awesome things happen in their work. So if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to put them in the chat. And because this is really a community space every week that I love joining, it's the highlight of my week, truly. And then we'll also at some point ask different members of our community here to jump in and help us almost as consultants to solve these challenges. And so I'll give you a sense of what we're focusing on for today's topic in a moment. But before I do, I want to recognize that today is an important day to remember. It's September 11th, and it's been 19 years since the terrorist attack in New York City and Washington, D.C. and in Pennsylvania. And I think it's also a good reflection point to think about those 2,500 people who were lost, and also realizing, I looked it up today, the 910,000 people worldwide who have been lost due to COVID-19. So I just want to take a moment of silence and for everyone to reflect and think and remember. Okay, thank you guys. And maybe before we jump in, take one nice deep breath. It's always good to take a deep breath. Breathe in and out. Alrighty. So with that, thank you guys for joining us to think about the importance of today. And with that, we are going to jump into our session. So Emma, I'm going to actually pass it over to you to share a little bit about what is our focus for today and who are our special guests.
Yeah, so today we have Gray and David joining us from World Builders, sorry. And they'll share a little bit about their organization with us. I don't want to take that from them, but we are going to be thinking about how we might build process flows at scale. So really thinking about how we can use these sticky notes and connectors to build processes that can be replicable as well. So using them as templates and making these processes as easy and streamlined as possible. So Gray, I'll pass it off to you to explain a little bit about your organization.
And before we do, Gray, I want to also mention that if anybody here has experience working on process flows and thinking about building them for scale and organization, and you want to help us act as kind of consultants for World Builders, then please put your type all caps yes in the chat, because we want you to come into this mural, be on camera, on audio, and participate with us. So if you're interested in joining with this panel, put yes. And I'll invite some of you in as Gray is explaining what World Builders is.
Sure. Right. Can I share my screen to?
Yes. Here we go. Go for it.
There we go. All right. It should be showing right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So World Builders is weird, and it was started by a weird guy. There's an author named Patrick Rothfuss who wrote Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear, and some other books and posts and stories. And his books are very popular, and he was very successful, and he wanted to do some good with it. And so many, many, many years ago, about 13 years ago, I believe, he decided to try and start funneling that into nonprofit fundraising. And World Builders was formed after a few years of success doing that. We just turned 10 years old. And it's a charity that leverages the power of geeks and fandom and partners with creators to try and make good change for the world. And this World Builders itself is a registered 501c3 charity. And part of the way that we pay the bills is through World Builders Market, which is where the partnership comes through. And to give you an example of what kind of work we do, I got copies of our most recent newsletter here. So, for example, we partnered with the One Shot Podcast RPG group, and we are selling in our store some of the merchandise from their things, and that partially helps support those creators, and then part of it goes to fund our work. We have here a book plate that we're doing with the author Joe Abercrombie, who has a new book coming out. And this is a local artist, and he will be signing these World Builders book plates. We also came up with something called the Masked Hero Initiative, which is a way that we can both sell geek-themed masks, but also funnel those profits into letting us be able to donate masks to anyone who needs it, especially marginalized communities. And that, as an example, we have lots of games in our store also. Again, some of these are donated, some of these are partnerships with the gamers. They get some of the profits, and the rest of it goes to helping us continue our fundraising. And then just because we want to try and be good members of the community, we try and come up with something to read, to play, or to listen to every time we do a newsletter. So this is a book that one of our employees, Beth, likes. Our assistant director, Zay, loves playing Breath of the Wild with Zelda. And then I was recommending this podcast from Radio Milwaukee that has some good perspectives about the various things happening in Kenosha. And all of this kind of stuff, this production, goes into end of year fundraiser every year. And some of our, we've raised over the past, since 2008, over $13 million total towards various organizations, mainly Heifer International. And at the end of the year, every year, we take donations from these other creators and companies, and then we have various like auctions and incentives and perks for people to participate in the fundraiser. So it's weird because we are 100% pass through. When we do the fundraiser, if we raise $1 million, we give $1 million to the charity, which has happened in the past. We use these marketplace partnerships to help fund ourselves and keep the lights on for us so that we continue to do these fundraising activities. We also occasionally will do sort of crisis response stuff. We did a fundraiser at the beginning of the pandemic to help out Project Hope for providing PPE and training and things like that. But there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different things going on, both on the nonprofit fundraising side, and we're basically running a marketplace at the same time. So that's where we have people like David helping us out to figure out how to make that process work better. I should add, we had a large turnover at the beginning of the year. So we're making, part of this is not having the benefit of past employees who had been doing this before. So David is kind of sort of getting a chance to start anew and come up with new processes that are more efficient.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I added some of the links for World Builders and the market and stuff in the chat for anyone to check out. And I love the slogan that you guys have, Geeks for Good. It's just so perfect. Yep. So before we jump in, I wanted to, and thank you for the intro, Gray. I wanted to do a quick check-in because we have our panelists and our consultants here for you today. I'm super pumped, and I want to get the chance to introduce them and have a quick moment to see where we're all at today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually invite just the panelists right now into the mural, and I'll invite the rest of our crew in here later. And I'll make sure I get you guys the right link. Okay, I see Jay in there. I see we all have two J's anyway. We have Jay Shu and Jay Elkerton, and we have Kevin in here. And I think Catherine is also here. So if you guys can't get in, please let me know. I'll send you the visitor link. But I think I'll also send you guys the panelist or the visitor link just to be sure. All right. I think I see everyone in there. So I'm going to ask you guys to follow me. And I hid the warm up here, but let me reveal it to you guys. So here's what we're going to do. I stole this one from a teammate of mine who did this. So I'd love to know, which Nicolas Cage are you today? And this is like a quick check-in. So what you can do is put your name on a small sticky note here and drag it over to the to where you're at today in the world of Nicolas Cage. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to change this visitor link so that anybody in the audience who wants to follow along in Mural can do that with our view only. So you won't be able to add sticky notes, but you'll be able to follow along. So I'll put that in the chat right now. Here we go. All right. I love it.
All right, Jay. We made a framework already.
Sorry?
There's a request for this to be made a framework already.
Oh, we totally should. I also am going to save it to my content library. So the content library I have, and it's still in beta. It's going to be coming out soon, but you can save this to your own little private content library, which is awesome.
Oh, good.
Wait, Haley, I love what you've done with the style of this. Really good job.
Thanks. This was from yesterday, actually.
I know, but
I
saw the first version that was done, and you've made this better.
So thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm curious, Kevin, welcome. Why are you feeling carefree today?
I brought my youngest to kindergarten for the first time today, and he was very excited. So I feel like that went as well as it could have gone. So it's a Friday. So
that's and it's Friday. True. Cheers to that. All right. And Jay, tell me, why are you feeling focused?
So, focused because I've had like multiple events going on different screens all day. The big design conference is going on. I was at a UNT faculty meeting. I've got my work computer, and now I'm in this meeting, and all of it's going on at the same time. But wow. I'm focused on you right now.
I appreciate it. I know you have a lot of moving parts right now, but that's awesome. And we have Jessica, who's feeling a little bit meh. Jessica, how can we help? But Jessica, why are you feeling meh today, if you don't mind sharing? You're on mute, by the way, if you're sharing.
Hi, sorry.
Hey, no worries.
I was taking care of a puppy and a little child here.
Oh, no.
Kind of meh. Actually, he's not so little. I'm feeling meh because it's my son's birthday and I'm trying to figure out how to celebrate a 12-year-old birthday and also amidst COVID and the smoke that's in the air. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, happy birthday we'll throw some confetti and mural in the meantime. And hey, Jessica, we have a community here of creative thinkers, and I'm going to ask them to share some creative ideas for how to throw a 12-year-old a birthday party. Is there a particular theme that you have in mind?
Amazing. Why don't we ask him? Here, he's right here.
Okay.
Well, I really like soccer.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what is your name, by the way? And happy birthday.
Leif. It's Leif.
Yeah.
All right. So while we're going through, I'm going to ask everybody on the chat to give some ideas about a soccer themed birthday party for life. How can we do this amid COVID, amid forest fires going on and affecting air quality? I would love some of these ideas. And thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's jump into the good stuff. We have our consultants here, our panelists who are helping us out. Now, we are talking about process flows and building process flows in Mural. I'm going to put some of these over here. Building process flows in Mural today. So we are going to do a little bit of like instructional overview of how to do that. But before we do, I'm going to ask David to walk us a little bit through what you are looking to accomplish with these process flows you're building. And you're on mute,
David.
That's going to be the theme word of the year. You're on mute. So as Gray mentioned, we had a large number of staff turnover this year, and we are worried about losing our succession preparation, or losing our information as people came in and came out of the firm. So we wanted to not only plan for succession and job training, but also sort of formalize our SOPs, our standard operating procedures within the organization. And we have been growing this year. And so with that has come new procedures and new steps. And we wanted to create not only a written SOP, but also a visual SOP. So we wanted to have it as down there at the bottom of Mural. There is a...
this mural, right, you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's that flow. There's a flow chart, which is the example that we wanted to go off.
Okay. So this is kind of the current, and then this is the ideal state, right? Where it looks something like this.
Yeah, we wanted a more formal flow chart of the processes along with the written SOP document. And so we started to brainstorm, and I started to write, but I'm having trouble going from this, our brainstorm activity, where we use Mural to place notes on the different steps of the process. But we want to now break down those steps into a visualized flow chart, so we can have, like I said, both the visual and the written documentation.
Okay. So for our consultants, Kevin, Jay, and Jessica, any questions so far about this process for David and Gray, or about their approach?
So one, you couldn't have invited a better guide to this, man, because I actually served as the animation, gaming, and visual effects industry rep for the state of Texas. And you can see behind me, I love books. I'm an educator, love games, animation. So I'm all about this vibe. Also, I've done nonprofits for years, industry giants, a bunch of short guys as an animation nonprofit. So I get it. You're losing kind of all that intellectual knowledge, right, that you've built up over the years. And one of the things that we've been talking about at Big Design as you're doing talent strategies is you almost need a nonprofit strategy for people coming and going into your organization. It's going to happen, and it has nothing to reflect on the organization. So how can you have a succession plan that you expect people to be there for 2 or 3 years, maybe as very engaged, and then have kind of a scale that, things happen. People have kids, they move jobs, they do different things. So moving forward, that should be something that you expect. So that way you're not constantly being hit and being put back in the situation again in the future. So that's just one thing from an overarching process perspective, is how might we develop a plan to get new blood into the organization, develop a succession or growth plan for the people that are involved and active in it, and then have the expectation that at some point in the future, they're probably going to move on to something else, or life's going to happen and they're going to get involved in maybe more of their family. Maybe they're at soccer games every weekend and can't devote the amount of time they need to the nonprofit like they could before they had kids, right? So that's just 2 cents right off the bat. So I'll throw it to somebody else.
Love it. That's awesome. Any other thoughts or clarifying questions, team?
Yeah, clarifying question. This is Kevin. So you showed 2 examples, one the ideal state and one looked more like some notes or sketch, collaboration on what an ordering process or something might look like. Are we trying to work on an ordering process in the context of a larger set of plans that are meant to preserve this institutional memory, or is it more about what are we working on specifically the succession planning / preserving memory?
It's a little bit of both. So I know we do want to take some time at the start of this to talk about like how to build flowcharts in Mural, because as you can see, of course, the core of Mural when you first start is like, yeah, it's just a sticky note tool, right? But I know that there was a specific ask from David and Gray to show and walk through how to use shapes and connectors and things like that for these purposes. And then I think once we do maybe like 10 minutes of that overview, shift into, okay, well, how do we make this what approach could we use to Jay's point, make this something that we can use to iterate, to share and maintain knowledge, things like that.
Okay.
There was also a question about, Jeremy asked in the chat about the decision points. And I think to clarify let's focus on, so with that, let's focus a little bit on the process and improving the look and feel of this process flow with Mural, because there was the question in the chat about this process flow and the ideal state and these decision points and things like that. So maybe I'll ask you, David, before we jump in, like why is this ideal for you?
It gives individuals a very visual way of determining what their next step is. And so the example that I gave to you today was sorting packages into 3 different carts, UPS, USPS, and international. And so someone could very easily see through this going down from the start, going down to making a choice of what cart, and if it's not what cart, what their next step is. And so they don't have to read an entire document to complete the steps. They can do it more on the fly as they're walking through a flow chart.
And I'll also say that because supply chain is having a lot of difficulties right now and things change every day, we wanted to use Mural because it can be a live document and we can easily change if we have, see places in the process where things have changed or whether things are having difficulty. It'll be easier to figure out solutions or establish adaptations that everybody can easily see.
Got it. Okay. So with that in mind, team, I'm going to bring these over here because I kind of want to do a side-by-side comparison and say, if we look at this as the ideal state and looking at this as the current state, understanding the steps in here, I think the best way to tackle this. Part of me thinks, okay.
Do you want to tackle the smaller one?
Let's do
that.
The over here is
this one, right?
It's the order sorting process. So just one of the steps of that
Perfect.
of that mural. And so within this, it's sort of in a flowchart type state right now, where the three top items are the beginning, middle, and then the long list is sort of in the end in order of completion. And then the final yellow post-it is the final step of the process.
Okay. So let's see. So in a process flow, I want to pull the other one back over here. Whoop. I think it's important for us to make a key in a way where we would have the different, the start, the kind of action, the question, and then these decision points. So Jeremy, I see you pulling some shapes in here. So for everyone who's new to Mural, the shapes are over here in the shapes and connectors section. And what might we use these different shapes for? Like if you've built process flows up before, what would the diamond versus a circle versus a square be?
Standard process flow diamonds for decision, right?
Yeah. A diamond is traditionally a decision point.
Okay.
And usually an oval or a curved edge shape is for an end point or a beginning point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Haley, I one of the things that we sometimes do in my organization when we're working through a flow is we will understand, is it a process? Is it a document? What type of communication is it that's happening at a particular point in time? And what happens then is, let's say it's a document, right? You could put a document icon on the sticky note or so it represents that this is a particular thing that needs to happen. And sometimes it's a communication thing. It might be a phone call or an email or something like that. So what that does is it gives context to the roadblocks. Does that make sense? Like sometimes people are in a place where unless I get this email and it gets approved, then, it's not going anywhere. So having those icons as to what you're doing at a particular point in the flow helps people understand the context of the process, right? So we have to have a meeting. Okay, then you have people icons that show, okay, there's a meeting that needs to take place in order for people to make decisions and get it approved. And then what happens after that? Well, yes or no. If it's no, then you go here and do this. If it's yes, then you go here and do this. So what happens is the flow then becomes really visual, because then people have a way of saying, well, how might we think differently about this process in terms of the flow and how these things are being delivered? Because this is now being put in, Salesforce or something, and what happens to it? And you'd be surprised when you get all the people in the room and they say, well, I don't know, what do we do with that thing once it's created? And people go, yeah, I don't touch it. I don't touch it. And you're like, oh, that's a problem. Everybody's doing this work and it's going to a repository where nobody knows if it's updated or yes or no. And there's multiple instances of that same document and people don't know how to do it. So providing a visual context of all the different places within the flow helps people get a better visual sense of how this thing is happening. So again, I'll throw it back to you guys.
That's awesome. No, I love that idea. And I see we are already starting to pull some of these icons in. So document, I think this is phone call. I'm trying to think, what was the box would that represent? Packaging?
Well, packaging is a big part of this. Like there's products, there's finding the products, there's putting them in the packages, there's printing out the labels is a big part of it.
In this particular step, we're just focusing on not pulling items, but only placing our items into boxes and seal them and label them. And taking those then and putting them into sealed bags. So we're past the packing steps. I should clarify myself. They're done packing, and we are getting them ready to be shipped or presented to a shipping service, whether it's for international or national or domestic.
Okay, so I'm just gonna move this in here.
I have a thought on this too.
Yeah, please.
It sort of builds on, I think, what the other Jay mentioned. I love that. In my experience, and this is my experience, these types of flow diagrams are handy, but people are lazy. People are satisfied. So many times these just things don't get referenced. And so what has to happen is, maybe what has to happen, you have to think about, well, how can we encourage their use? So it gets back to, is there some way that we can represent the status of things going through this process? And that's really important, because I think it may impact how you structure your flow to some extent visually. So so I'm get back to the old simplified Kanban type of approach for tracking things. That's sort of the thought, that for it to be really useful, you want to be able to act on it, right? So that's just a thought.
I'm a big fan of Kanban. I can see that for the status of things. I'm not clear, and maybe I just haven't done enough Kanban to know how it would work when it comes to a decision process.
Yeah, I don't know if this is.
Yeah, and that's the one part that is. I don't know
if it's applicable, that specific structure, but thinking about how you could encourage active use of the artifact, that could be the decision process you have characterized is sort of could be important, right? Encourage use.
So Jay, what I'm hearing is not just making this document in Mural in a way just a standalone process flow, but then using it as a point to, if you are going through different orders or something, saying, this is the step of the process that this current order is in, and it's being moved across to from the backlog to in process to what's been done. So as a task management tracker as well. Yeah,
it's the old thing that things get used when they're architected for use, right? Yeah.
So something is more dynamic in the sense of it's being used rather than a static document that is just referenced.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. And I put the Kanban board on here just to give a good reference. I think something that will be helpful, because we have some of these icons on here already with this visual library, which is great. And what I'd love to do, and I think this is a great suggestion from Jeremy, to get to building out a process flow in Mural, I'd love to have you, David, walk us through this process out loud. And what I'm going to ask our consultants to do, maybe in the space over here as you're hearing it, build out what you imagine this process flow to look like if you were to build out a Mural.
Yeah, can I apply maybe a thought? It sounds like most processes are some bit of a journey, right? Something happens first, then something happens next, then something happens next. So we're looking at a journey map, right? You're going on a trip, you're packing your bags, then you're getting an Uber, you're going to the hotel, or you go in the airport, getting on the plane. You guys get it. So most processes take some sort of journey, and then you have hiccups from the first part to the second part, and that's typically where you have gaps or things that happen. So I think if we look at this maybe from a journey perspective, is what happens first, what happens next, what happens there, and then we can look at the different sticky notes within that part of the journey, and then we can isolate maybe pain points or insights around that particular part of the journey that would then give us ways to potentially optimize it in the future.
Love that. Does it sound good to you? Would that be helpful for you, Gray and David? If you can walk us through that journey?
Sure. David, you want to go ahead? You're the one who did the brainstorm with Mike. I'm not sure if you're on mute.
David, you're on mute.
Sorry. We are in a overall stage in the overall process where the packages are packed and sealed and labeled and ready to go to be leaving our facility. And so
that's the start. Like step one.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Or step zero in a way.
Pre-journey, maybe.
Yeah. So we're getting packages in the process that are already labeled, sealed, ready to go. From there, they're placed on a rolling conveyor belt conveyor that we then look at them and determine whether they're one of three things, or whether they're USPS packages, and we tell that by the label, whether they're just standard domestic UPS, or whether they're part of a service that UPS has for international called Mail Innovations. And so if they're part of the UPS domestic, we place them on a UPS cart. If they're a USPS labeled product or package, we place it on a USPS cart. And then if it's part of Mail Innovations, we place it on the Mail Innovation cart.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because even that one little piece is like, wow, okay, there are a lot of different potential decision points to make or to think about. So
really quickly, you're doing a great job by talking us through this, David. I'm dyslexic, so maybe it's just me and maybe it's the process. How about if I put these little numbers on the side over there at the top, and there's these pink numbers for us. And I was saying, let's maybe map out linearly what is first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And then maybe we can draw some like swim lanes in between all these and start putting the sticky notes, all the different sticky notes in the first step. So you can help guide us as to what all happens in stage one from your perspective, what all happens in stage two from your perspective, what all happens in stage three. And that would help me keep along with what appears to be an interesting process that you've got going on.
Yeah.
I guess the sort in place is the first aspect. And of the sort in place, these are the three steps of the sort in place, if that makes sense.
David, this third one on Monday and Friday, start mail innovation sorting staging process sounds different than what you said, that there's a mail innovations cart that stuff goes on.
Yeah.
And then is that Monday through Friday thing an additional step for, like, on those days you're gonna do something with the stuff on that cart?
I'm sorry. You're right. We're sorting by these three carts, by USPS, by UPS, and by a cart for mail innovations. It's only on Mondays and Fridays do we package up the mail innovations. So every day of the week now, we then process the USPS and the UPS packages. So we just keep it on the cart and we then roll them out here to the loading dock every day. So we should
So if I'm looking at UPS, because I see there's like a UPS specific step here.
Yeah, that's the mail innovations. The number 2 is mail innovations. Really, that should be to roll. The next step really is roll the UPS and USPS carts to the loading dock, because once they're sorted, they're ready to go. It's only with the mail elevations that we do it differently. We actually only do that like that note said on Mondays and Fridays, and that's where it's a bit more complicated.
Interesting. Okay. So maybe I'll put the mail innovation sticky note over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that will be a different process. Jay, is this doing what you want?
So here's what as you guys can see the swim lanes below.
Yeah.
What I was thinking is we kind of label each swim lane where we put one. So let me.
Oh, I understand. Down here.
Right.
Okay.
So we put one here, and then we put two here, and three, and go across. And then in this first lane, we're putting all the steps that need to happen. And we can put it, what happens first is the first sticky note, what happens second is a sticky note, what third. And if there's a decision tree, then we can do a loop around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But we understand what are all the tasks in that first stage. All these things need to happen in this first stage, and then we can go to the second swim lane, and then all those tasks will happen in that. And if we need to draw arrows then between, we can. So we might draw an arrow down for the next sticky note in the first swim lane, right? From that first sticky note to the next thing in the swim lane. But what happens is we now have distinct stages that all the sticky notes then identify all the activities that happen within that particular swim lane. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
So the first step here is determine whether it's Monday or Friday. After we have put them on the carts here. The number one at the top here is probably the first one is sorting. So we could probably create and then the next one, if it's Monday or Friday, then we collect the mail innovation bag. So we're going to process the mail innovations cart if it's Monday or Friday.
So what I would do is I'd say if it's Monday, are there different tasks associated if it's Monday or Friday?
No, they're both the same.
Okay, so what happens after we determine if it's Monday or Friday?
Then we will grab the mail innovations cart and start to process it.
So that's if it's Monday or Friday. I'm just moving this down here. At 3 p.m., start mail innovation sorting staging process.
Yep.
Got it.
Why is it important whether it's Monday or Friday?
Because we only ship out international on Mondays and Fridays.
Okay. So
because the process, explained about the process, unlike regular UPS or USPS, the internationals all have to be put in a special bag, a plastic bag, and counted and labeled in a particular way. And so we've already talked about, can we start the process on one day and finish it on another day? And we felt that it's easier just to keep everything on the cart and to complete the process from the cart itself.
Okay, so let me walk that through. So when you're shipping stuff, you put everything on a cart, and you have to put them in a bag. Is that what I heard?
That is correct. Right here is the next step. Collect a plastic UPS and mail innovations bag from shelf.
And David, does that happen on Monday and Friday only?
Yes.
Okay, that's part of the Monday Friday process. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving this into like just per process flow fashion, putting that in a square or rectangle. There we go.
Thank you, Haley. You're doing awesome.
Thank you, Jay. You're doing awesome. This is really helpful.
And David, is counting packages an everyday thing, or is that just a Monday and Friday thing?
Monday and Friday for this. Yeah, Monday. Yeah, we only count packages for mail innovation, so it's only on Monday and Fridays.
Do we count packages for USPS and stuff like that other days?
You're not.
Okay.
No.
So the first part of your whole process is you're determining if it's a Monday or a Friday. And if it's a Monday or Friday, you do particular things for Mondays and for Fridays, correct?
Right. Yeah. And we start them like this. Both know here says at about 3:00, because the fact that the time is important, because we can complete or ship out any international packages that have been processed during the day. And so as late in the day as we can go, we want to complete this process.
So Haley, could you do me a favor as my co-awesome person? Can you create a pink sticky note with a clock that says at 3 p.m.? Because that helps us understand that that's a big important kind of headline or insight for us.
Yes.
And pink sticky notes kind of designate either pain points or insights or processes that we really need to pay attention to. And so David was telling us that at 3 p.m. is an important thing that's a part of this process. So those pink sticky notes help us highlight, right, those important factors within each of the stages.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And okay, so we are counting the packages on the cart, and then next we place them inside the bag that we pulled up here. And as we're pulling them into the bag, we are recounting the items just to confirm, belt and suspenders. Just make sure we have the right number listed, or we know the right number in the bag.
Now, should that be another decision point? Recount things, is the number correct? Proceed. If not, then what is the?
Yep, that would be very wise, because if not, we need to recount again. So if that second count doesn't match the first count, we need to go back and recount them. So if the count from the cart is 20, and we're placing them in the bag, and at the end of placing them in the bag we have 21, we need to find out what we did wrong.
So Haley, that would be another insight as a pain point, is that there are times when you miscount, and that means you have to start over or find out, what I'm hearing from David, that you have to go back and figure out what happens. Is that correct, David?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Is there also a maximum number of items that you can put in a certain bag so that you'd have to divvy it out into different bags?
There's not. Just as many as you can put into the bag and have it sealed. So it could be 2 large items or 20 small items.
So I originally had an idea thing in there as an insight. Let me see if I can, or maybe Haley's better at this than I am. If you can put a little light bulb somewhere off to the side as an insight. Yeah. And I'm wondering if we had a particular number of items that we put in a bag, if that would help recounting be easier.
We're trying to minimize the number of bags going out. So as many items as we could put in there is ideal, so we don't have a half full bag with only 3 items in it.
Got it. Could you say that you maybe make sure that you have like odd or even numbers, like 10 or 15 or 20 to make it easier to count? Is that an idea? Or does the variety of size make that not really?
Yeah. I'll say the variety of size, because although we have some standard sizes of boxes that go out, like we have a sword that we sell and all the way down to a pair of earrings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we go all the way from a single coin to a actual replica sword, and boxes and games and books and everything in between. So.
That's amazing.
That's another pain point then, Haley, is can you imagine counting items where there's like 25 coins in it plus something else? So the variety of sizes that box make it difficult to potentially count the number of items in a box, which can delay the process. Thank you, Haley. You're being awesome. Appreciate it.
You're being awesome, Jay. Thank you. You're like picking this apart and like, yeah, I just really appreciate
I really
you.
appreciate this, Jay. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
This is great, and the visualization of the colored will really help in the process. You know, it will make it a dynamic, as Jay talked about earlier. Someone can look at this and use it regularly rather than just, you know, a one-time reference.
Yeah.
Hey, Haley, can I give a couple pro tips to the whole crew about connectors?
Please, yeah.
There's a couple things I want to say about them, just because I think David and Gray, this is something you're going to want to take away with you. So to make a connector in Mural, you hold down C on your keyboard. Mm-hmm. And then if you mouse over an object, you're going to see the box around it. And Haley can do that. She can show you what this looks like when you hold down C and then mouse over an object. So Haley, throw that, when you get close to an object, the object will light up and you can see where you're connecting it. And as long as you see that thing light up and that connection happen, now the objects are actually connected to each other inside Mural. Oh, and what that means is if you watch my mouse, this yes box, I can actually drag this now and the connection doesn't get lost, which is a thing I want you to all take note of, because it's really important when you're building these kinds of flow charts that you make them actually connect, so that if you do move them, you don't lose your connections, because that's data that's important, right? That's the biggest pro tip for me, is like make sure that when you make a connector that you can see that box around the edge of your items as you're connecting them to each other.
That's a huge pro tip. Thank you for that, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know that other flowchart applications that I've used in the past, Visio and stuff like that, have that feature. And it's good to know that I could do that here also, because that's a big win when you're moving stuff around.
Awesome. Well, I want to help, if we can, get as much of this process. I know we're limited on time here. Mm-hmm. Actually, how much time do we have, Haley?
So we actually have 5 minutes. Time got away with us, which is good. We got really into the weeds here on building this out.
This is helpful, and then seeing the process has been really educational too. The level of questioning that Jay was doing is something that I think we'll try and emulate.
Yeah,
as we work through it.
Awesome.
So let me. I know I'm kind of monopolizing this. I'm sorry to my other facilitators. I hope I didn't step on any toes. The idea then is to ask these questions as soon as you kind of go through. Like you mentioned the 3 p.m. Why is that important? Right. And then I started asking about, well, how many things can we put in the boxes? Because recounting is a pain point. So you want to start kind of asking those questions. What do we have to do at this step? Are there ways that we could do it and do things differently? Because that's how you then relook at this process. Haley, this is a fantastic case study. I'd almost love to see this built out and then go through the next process of saying, here is the current flow. What is a future flow that you could do that would optimize the system, right? As a talk, and how could you show that the difference between the first flow and the second flow, and design it in Mural to communicate those potential changes, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're looking for.
Especially like Jay, I love that you're adding in ideas, but like you're asking these questions and saying, what if you did it like this? And I imagine once the World Builders team has the current process built out, being able to bring in, as they're bringing in new people as well, they're able to ask them, like, how would you do this differently? Or what can we change to make it more efficient or clearer, things like that. So,
I'm an advocate of the pink sticky note. And what I've discovered in these sessions, that if you have a method like a pink sticky note that people can do big pain points or insights, and do it in the moment, because people forget, right? They'll have an insight and then they'll just go on and they don't write it down. So in person or on Mural, I'll say, write that down, do a pink sticky, right? So that way you don't lose it as people are going through.
Yeah.
That's a big insight for me and a pro tip to everyone else, and why I love having that reserved color of that pink sticky note, because then when you look on here, you know that the pink sticky notes are either big pain points, insights, and themes that I need to pay attention to when I'm reporting the analysis of the flow to higher ups or other stakeholders.
Right. Yeah. And Jay, you did a really good job also, like saying to me, like, Haley, that's great. Can you mark that down? Like delegating responsibilities.
We've talked about the importance of co-facilitators, and in Mural, it's absolutely essential, I think.
For sure.
Jay, what do you have to say?
Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Apologies.
No, I just want to build on that. And this process, I've done this a lot too. Generally, you'll find that your current process is very, very messy, right? But that visual representation really helps you focus your area of, let's say, redesign, right? Oh, this is really messy. We got to simplify that. So it visually, it really helps you sort things out as to where the complexity is. So it is okay for it to be messy. That's what I'm all saying. Yeah.
There's beauty in it for sure.
But if it's messy, you could probably expect it to be messy in real life. If it's messy on Mural, it's going to be messy in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You want to represent what you got. Yep.
Yeah.
Jessica, one last thing from Jessica, and then I'm gonna wrap up, being mindful of everyone's time too.
I was just gonna build on a lot of your thoughts, but to Jay, one of the Jay's points around the links and journey mapping. I've done something similar where as you start to understand the flow in the different stages, the really beautiful part, I think that Gray and David, with your teams, you have a big focus on impact and your nonprofits and whatnot, and there's rich storytelling to be told. I think that one of the layers, because I'm a social impact strategist, I think that as you understand it, there are ways that you can identify those potential moments that you can then infuse more storytelling into either the nonprofits and different aspects of that. And so that's where someone like me usually comes in to then rip open that supply chain or that particular stream. So I to Jay's point, I think that this being a case study would really allow you to not just understand that end-to-end flow, but for you to then infuse in these additional insights to then create greater impact for all stakeholders involved.
I love that. So thank you. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much, our consultants, Jessica, Jay, Kevin, Jeremy, for joining us today. This has been a blast to just really unpack using Mural for these process flows and for the help kind of wrangling this process. And this mural belongs to you guys now. So if you want to keep building in here, if you want to continue the conversation, this is your space. I'll ask the audience, if we do love you making these sessions more beneficial for you guys. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to know. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate today's session and why, just in terms of usefulness to you and value? And also, if there's any topic that you want to hear more about in future Backstage Passes, please do let us know. And we will be here basically every Friday, same time, same place, with teams like World Builders and other organizations, understanding how we can help create impact and help create moments for storytelling in Mural. So I deeply appreciate our team here, Gray and David, for sharing your approach with us. And we will share this mural and the recording of this session after the call today for you guys to visit and reference anytime. But thank you so much again to everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Reach
Really
out to me on
appreciate
LinkedIn.
You guys are rock stars. I just love this community so much.
I did put our emails in the chat if anybody has any follow-up questions for us.
Great. Yeah. If you want to check out World Builders or work with Gray and David more, please do.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jay.